Welcome to Garage Gym Athlete Cool Downs. These episodes are short, actionable podcasts pulled from previous interviews and content we've been publishing for the last several years. So go for a walk, hop on the rower, or clip into the bike for this cool down episode. So let's talk about, you've mentioned a few times now, fasting. This is something we've discussed. I cycle on and off of doing intermittent fasting. When I say cycle on and off, I mean 12-week periods where I do it and then 12-week periods where I don't do it. Kind of lines up with my training cycles. Just for various reasons, I like to switch things up. But where do you recommend, a true fasting habit? Like, what would be good? You mentioned a 24-hour fast is where you mentioned a study where there was like a huge increase in, I think, growth hormone and testosterone. How frequently would you recommend that kind of fast versus intermittent fasting or having an eating window? And how do you recommend people navigate that path?
Sure. So what I would say is start off slow. So for a lot of people, let me step back for a second. So let's say you're not low carb and you're not keto and you're just kind of eating Western diet. Well, then your brain is basically fueled with glucose. And so if you were to do an extended fast, meaning anything longer than probably 8 hours for most people in that situation, you're going to start feeling pretty horrible. And so before I went low carb, I mean, that's what would happen to me. I would eat, mostly it was carbohydrates with a little protein, and then I would have a huge sugar crash, and I would feel horrible. Well, that's going to happen to most people who are not keto adapted or fat adapted. So in that situation, I would say first try to get into more of a low carb keto situation and then start incorporating more of a fasting, intermittent fasting. Start off with 8 hour windows, which is pretty easy because you can just eat dinner 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, don't eat breakfast until maybe 10 o'clock. And then all of a sudden, there you go, you've done about 15, 16 hours. And the benefit of that is really, if you go back to kind of a cellular level, how our body works, the body doesn't care if you're using glucose, fat, protein for energy. It's going to use whatever you give it, use it for energy, and then move on. But what happens when you're eating all the time? So, we've told people to eat 6 meals a day. We've told people eat all the time. And what happens from like a cellular mechanism is that our body has to actually create enzymes to burn our own fat stores. So when you're eating all the time, your insulin is going to be up. And when insulin is up, you're basically going to be storing whatever excess energy you have as fat. And so in order to turn that insulin off, you have to go periods of time where you're not eating. We used to think that you could just do a calorie restriction, restrict your calories to 800 calories a day and you'll lose weight. And you will initially, but you're also going to slow down your metabolism. So long-term wise, it doesn't work. But if you do more in terms of intermittent fasting, then you allow your body to start making the enzymes that you need to actually break down your fat, something called fat oxidation or beta oxidation. So the only time that actually happens is if you go through periods of time where you're not eating. And that has to be, more than 2 hours. I mean, we're talking 12, 16, 18 hours. And so when you do those intermittent fasting sessions, basically what you're doing, once you've depleted your glycogen store, you're starting to burn your own fat for energy. And that's kind of the whole point of being in low carb and ketosis also, is to allow your body to use your own fat stores for energy. So what I usually tell people is get into low carb or keto, get fat adapted, then start doing intermittent fasting and do it maybe 3 times a week where you do 16, 18 hour periods. Then, work your way up to maybe 24-hour fast. And that's pretty simple. I mean, you eat dinner, the next day you eat dinner, and you cycle through that. And like you said, you can cycle through these things and see kind of how your body responds. So situational wise, let's say, you're doing this because you want to lose weight. Well, that's fine. So what you could do is maybe 2 or 3 times a week, you do a 24-hour fast just to allow your body to burn through some of its fat stores. And then I also do recommend for certain people to do longer term fasting, which we basically say is 3 days or more, where all you drink is water and salt. In those situations, it's more for like longevity purposes. So you get autophagy, you get improvement in your overall immune function, you get something called mitophagy as well, which is basically you destroy all the bad cells that your body has in it all the time. So people think that cancer kind of develops and it's there. Well, everybody in the world has cancerous cells. We just have our immune system that gets rid of it. But if you want to kind of supercharge that and get rid of all those bad cells, you can do a 3-day fast. And what will happen is you'll basically get rid of all the dead cells that you don't want. You're going to get rid of the mitochondria that are not functioning and make new ones. And then you're going to improve your immune system. So I usually recommend that people do that every 3 to 4 months and, kind of build into it, because it's kind of tough at first, but it gets better with practice.
And why does your body get rid of, all of the underperforming cells and mitochondria during a 3-day fast? Yeah,
great question. So because you're actually allowing your body to do its normal process. So when you're eating, you're basically taking the energy that you need normally to do these processes, and you're using it to basically use the food. It's an actual intensive process for the body to consume food, process the food, use it as energy. When you're not eating, you're actually allowing your body to take that extra energy and start recharging its system. So when we sleep, we're not eating, right? Well, that's when your body is really regenerating itself, because it has the energy capacity to do that. It's not busy doing all the other processes of life. So same thing happens when you do extended fasting. You're basically allowing your body to do its normal process, but in a more expedited way, because it can devote most of the energy that it needs to do that.
Okay, so if I were to kind of like lay out a schedule here for somebody, so you gotta, if your diet's just like standard American or Western diet, first you gotta cut that out, start going a little bit lower carb, then introduce a fast. Now that's something you can do, intermittent fasting, something you do on a daily basis. And then would you say once per month to do a 24-hour fast? Or how frequently would you recommend throwing that in there?
Yeah, I think initially, so I've been doing all this for about 12, 13 years. So I've obviously become pretty extreme with what I do. But for most people who are starting off, I would say, as you mentioned, just get into the idea that you're using fat as your energy for your brain. Once you can do that, you'll tolerate the intermittent fasting much better. So do like maybe 2 times a week initially, and then do a 24-hour fast maybe once a week. And then try the 3-day fast maybe every 3 months. I will tell you, most people, the first time they do it, by the second day, it's pretty painful. And so a lot of people maybe can't do it the first time, but that's okay, because each time you do it, it becomes much easier to accomplish.
Yeah, I have not done a 3-day fast. It's something I think I want to try. I think it's just interesting. It would be interesting to try, but I want to give it a shot. In the near future. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's just staying on top of your water and electrolytes is the main thing during those 3 days?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of water. And as far as electrolytes, basically take Himalayan salt, put it under your tongue, and that way it'll absorb faster. And so you maintain your electrolyte balance. And it's definitely something that you want to do when you're not like super stressed, because that'll make it even the more difficult. So you want to kind of time it where you're maybe a 3-day weekend and you don't have too much to do, then try it.
Okay, awesome. And you can have black coffee, right? Yeah, that's still good to go, or no?
Well, so if you're a purist and you're really doing this for autophagy, then no.
Okay.
I will say my vice is caffeine coffee. So I generally will have like 1 shot of espresso while I'm doing it, unless I'm doing an experiment where I'm documenting it and I'm telling people about it. Then I go cold turkey.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's I normally, when I'm doing intermittent fasting, I still have black coffee in the mornings most of the time. So
yeah.
So
for intermittent fasting, I think that's fine. That actually kind of helps in a way.
Yeah, it kind of blunts the hunger.
It blunts the hunger, but it also gives you a little bit of glycogen push in the morning. So if you wake up and you drink some black coffee, it actually stimulates your liver to kind of release some glucose. So you burn through your energy stores a little bit faster, and it allows you to get into kind of more of a beta oxidation where you're burning your fat a little bit faster.
Well, there you go. Even more
See?
reasons I need to keep drinking my coffee during the intermittent fasting.
Drink an extra cup of coffee and tell yourself you're losing weight doing that.
Thanks for listening to today's Cool Down. If for some ridiculous reason you are not subscribed to Garage Gym Athlete programming, fix that problem right now. Go to GarageGymAthlete.com, sign up for a free trial, get started with us today. Thanks for listening.